Oh, there's so much confusion. I'm glad you asked that question. So the initial closing disclosure and final closing disclosure, it definitely confuses my clients because they just want to know their cash to close, right? That's what the final closing disclosure is. It's done. Everybody's put in their numbers, but the government created the initial closing disclosure rule so that you sign 3 days prior to closing so that you can see an estimate. But the problem with that is that the initial closing disclosure is just that. It's an estimate. We often don't have, if there's seller tax prorations, we often don't have like the seller credit on there. Sometimes the taxes aren't on there. It's not final, but what has to be 100% accurate on the initial closing disclosure is your rate, your term, and your mortgage charges, like what fees the bank are charging. That's the absolute that has to be disclosed on the initial closing disclosure. And on the final, all the other numbers will fall in line. So I'll get clients who will get an initial closing disclosure, but the seller credit's missing or there's a tax proration missing and the number's wrong. They just call me typically and I explain that it's not final. It needs to be signed 3 days prior and what specifically can't change so they can look at it. And then I explain to them there's a few things missing on the final closing disclosure. Those will be put in place. So some states are attorney states that will have an attorney they're explaining to you. Some are what are called escrow states where the title company will have the title agent explaining all of this to you at closing. But you have to sign the initial closing disclosure 3 days prior to closing or you can't close. That's a law. It's not something that can be changed. So you're going to get an initial closing disclosure. You might still be in process on your loan, but they're going to send that out for you to sign it so that we can make sure you can close on time. So if you have any questions on those two disclosures, how they can differ, can they change, I'm happy to answer them. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tips.